Hello, my name is Peter Milton and I am the developer of TimeChainage. This video is part of a series where I show you some of the more common features of TimeChainage, and today we are covering part 2 of the planned activities tutorial. In part 1 we added some planned activities and I demonstrated the different activity types available. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I suggest you do so. In this video I will show you more features of the planned form. We will also look at the fields we didn't cover in part 1. The toolbar functions, the tabs on the details panel and the status bar. I have a project open in TimeChainage that we can use for this demonstration, so let's get started. We will open the planned form by clicking the planned button on the toolbar. As a quick recap, you can add activities in this form to create your planned schedule, and you can enter details in both the table and the details panel. Let's first look at some general features. We can adjust the size of the form by grabbing an edge and dragging it. We can adjust the width of columns by dragging the right-hand edge of the header row. We can sort the columns by clicking on a header row. First click sorts in ascending order. The second click puts it in descending order. I generally like to sort by start date and then by WBS. Doing this puts the WBS values in order, then within each WBS value the activities are sorted by date. You may then want to adjust the position of some specific activities. This can be done by pressing the up and down arrow buttons on the toolbar. So for example, I can move the main compound removal task up a couple of places by first selecting the row by clicking anywhere on it, then press the up arrow button twice. We can now save this sequence by clicking the Save Current Sequence button on the toolbar. We can then sort by other columns if we wish, then recover our saved sequence by clicking on the Sort by Saved Sequence button. In the last video I explained what some of the fields are for. We looked at the activity ID, which is generated by TimeChainage. The WBS field is for the work breakdown structure value. You can select it from the details panel drop down list. All tasks must be allocated a WBS value. The description can be shown on the chart next to the activity line. The Chainage to and Chainage from fields are for the start and end location of the activity. The production rate is entered as the distance worked per day. TimeChainage allowance is an optional duration. The point duration is the duration worked at all points along the activity. The predecessor, relationship and lag are similar to what you know from software like Primavera P6 and MS Project, except that in TimeChainage we have a relationship called box finish to start. You can have a start or finish constraint similar to P6. The calendar is automatically set when you select a WBS value. However, you can override it and select a different calendar for any task. Let's look at some of the data fields that we did not discuss in the previous video. The length field is calculated and is the difference between the from and to chainages. You cannot generally change the values in the calculated columns. There are two calculated duration columns, chainage duration and overall duration. The chainage duration is for activities where you have a production rate and is calculated as the activity length divided by the production rate plus any TRA. The chainage duration is the only calculated field that you can directly edit by entering a different value. If you do enter a value in this field, then the production rate will be recalculated to match. The overall duration is calculated as the chainage duration plus any point duration. So this value is relevant for vertical lines and boxes. The average rate field is calculated as the length divided by the overall duration. The start and finish dates are calculated using the critical path method and takes account of relationships, constraints and calendar non-work periods. We then have 3 activity code fields. Each activity can have a value from each code. The table simply shows the ID of the code value. The details panel shows the description. The next two columns are free float and total float and are calculated fields. The last two columns are user defined and can be text or number fields. You specify which in the project preferences. This example has one number field and one text field. If you have a number field, you can enter any relevant number, say activity cost. Then you can use the built-in progress versus time report to format and copy the data to Excel to quickly generate histograms and S-curves. This is a great way to produce cost profiles. Look out for videos on the built-in reports. Let's now look at the toolbar. It is split into three sections: a functional section, a section with buttons for hiding or revealing columns, and a section for filters. In the functional section, there are buttons to add and delete activities. To add an activity, click on the row in the table above where you want the new activity. Then press the Add button. To delete an activity, just select it by clicking anywhere in the row, then press the Delete button. The program will be rescheduled automatically. Then there are buttons to move activities up or down in the table. The next two buttons are to save and recover the sort sequence as we discussed earlier. The next button will schedule the program using the critical path method. The next two buttons are to transfer the table data to and from the Windows clipboard. This is useful if you like to work in Excel or to bring data in from other applications such as Primavera P6. If you want to use this feature, make sure you follow the rules given in the user manual for pasting data into TimeChainage, as the formatting has to be very specific. The next button closes the planned form. By default, scheduling will be carried out when you close the form unless you turn that feature off in the project preferences. This acts as a safety net in case you forget to schedule when you finish working in the form. The next set of buttons allow you to show or hide groups of columns, so you only see the columns you are interested in. Hover over a button and a description of what columns will be hidden appears. You can hide as many groups as you want. To reveal a group of hidden columns, just press the button again. The final section of the toolbar is a selection of filter controls. These filters only affect the table and not the chart. They are intended to allow you to work more efficiently, as you can concentrate on specific areas of the schedule. You can select a value from any of the filters, plus you can combine multiple filters. To clear a filter, just select the top All Values entry. Let's now look at the Details panel, which has 5 tabs. The first tab is the Details section. This has most of the fields shown in the table, and you can edit the values in here as well as in the table. Next is the Predecessor tab. This allows up to 10 predecessors to be entered. If you know the ID of the predecessors you want, you can enter them directly into the table, along with the relationship type and lag. If you don't know the ID, then you can open the Assign dialog to find your predecessor. The Assign dialog contains a list of all the activities, and to help you find the task you want to make a predecessor, you can sort any of the columns. Just click anywhere on the column you want to sort, and then press the Sort Up or Sort Down button. As an example, let's sort by WBS. I will click on the WBS column of any activity, then press the Sort Up button. I know the activity I want is a fencing activity, so I will scroll down to Fencing and find the task I want. Just click somewhere on the task and press the Assign button. You then repeat for any other predecessors. Then you exit the dialog using the Close button. We now have the fencing task as a predecessor. The easiest way to remove a predecessor is to use the Remove button here on the Details panel. Just select the predecessor to be removed by clicking on it in the table. then press the Remove button. The next tab allows you to view and edit successors. You can enter up to 10 successors. It works in exactly the same way as the Predecessors tab. You can enter details directly in the table or use the Assign dialog. Next is the Summary tab. This is for information only. You cannot edit any of the fields. Of particular interest, it gives you both the local and global changes for the selected activity. It shows both the early and late dates, and also both the working duration and calendar duration. The final tab is Variances. The table here displays variances between the planned activity and any of the saved baselines. The final feature I want to show you is the status bar. This shows the total number of tasks, the sum of all the activity lengths, the sum of all the activity working durations, the overall calendar duration, sum of the activity TRAs, and the overall average production rate. In this case, the average rate is calculated as being the sum of the activity lengths divided by the sum of the activity durations. The numbers are based on the filter being shown. So for example, if I go to the WBS filter and just show the head removal works, the status bar now shows data for just the head removal. Well, that was a deep dive into the plan form when there was a lot to take in. Luckily, you don't need to know all the features to be able to produce a schedule in TimeChainage. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you found this video helpful. TimeChainage, adding an extra dimension to your schedules.